I want to make sure we understand our lives are mostly affected by the way that we think things are, not the way they actually are. The things that affect us most, right, is the way that we think that life is, not the way that it actually is. First felt led to kind of lay out the purpose of this whole series, or honestly, what should be the purpose for any church service that we attend, any message that we watch online. Like anytime we're hearing someone bring the word of God in some type of message, I want to make sure that this happens. Man, we can go somewhere or we can watch something and they can like preach the bricks off of the building, right? It's just such a powerful, amazing message. People are all in there hooping and hollering. Everybody's praising the Lord, going crazy, right? But I want to make sure we get this. If we get out of that service and nothing changes, what was the point to that, right? Like if we exit that YouTube video that we were watching and nothing's different about us for the rest of the week, what's the point to that? Guys, Jesus didn't preach to hear the crowd go wild or to get likes on the tablet. He preached so that people's lives would change, right? That's the whole point of getting with God. That's the whole point of these messages, is preaching so that people's lives will actually change. Think about that. We don't want people to be like, oh yeah, they wear the shirt, they show up on Sunday, they make it look real sweet to everybody, they act like they're all spiritually developed, but yet you would never tell if you ran into them outside of here. I don't think any of us want to be known as that. You know, I take what I do seriously, man, and you know, I've been praying with God about some stuff, and truth be told, I feel like doing this, I got one job and one job only. And that's to connect you to God and to help you to get to know yourself. Guys, you got to get to know yourself. We got to get to know ourselves better than anyone else knows us. I'll be vulnerable once again. I'll give you a perfect example of what I mean. People have asked me, they're like, hey, Justin, when are we getting the High on Jesus bumper stickers? And I've gotten asked quite a bit, and I had to do some thinking and some self-reflection. And I'm like, and I don't think I'm ready for a High on Jesus bumper sticker on the back of my car. Like, I'm just being real. Like, when I'm late, if you see me go down I-75, like, it is like GTA 5 on that bad boy. Like, I'm getting it. We're swerving. We're doing our thing. Like, and I'm just being real. Like, I'm like, man, I don't know. Like, I'll just do a maneuver. And I'm like, could you imagine if I had the High on Jesus bumper sticker on the back of your car? Because you know that person is all kinds of mad at me, right? Like think about that. I don't want people to be like, oh, there's that High on Jesus guy driving like an idiot, just cut me off. Like, oh, those Christians are the same, right? I don't want that. Lord, help me with my time management, because I need help, y'all. I shouldn't be driving like that, right? But I'm just being real. I'm being transparent with you. Like, I know myself. Right? And I don't think I'm ready for that step yet. God still needs to work on me a little bit before we throw that thing on the back there. The bottom line is I know myself, y'all. Or I try to get to know myself more and more on a daily basis. So number one, I want you to get this. We have to get to know ourselves better than anyone else out there. It's important. Only then can we make an honest assessment and know what we are good at, to know what we struggle with, and to know what we need to be on guard against. Stay ready and recognize when character defects start to flare. Think about this for a second. The purpose of this journey, the purpose of anyone in life, inside of this room or outside of this room, is we have to get to know ourselves so we know the things like, hey, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, and this area right here, like, I really got to guard against this one. You might not have to guard against it as much, right? You may have that area as one of your strengths, but it's a weakness for me. Like, I got to stay away from the sweets or whatever it is. Some people can have a dessert here and there and be fine, but I know if I give into one and I'll give into 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And there it is. Whatever it is, we have to know ourselves, because that's something else about this journey. Just because someone else is saying, oh, well, you know, this is what I struggle with. Well, you might have that area licked a little bit and it might not be as bad for you. But you got to know yourself well enough to be like, oh man, you can go around this certain area, but I can't, because too much for me. I know that this is a weakness. And guys, we got to stay ready, and we got to recognize when these character defects start to flare up. But we got to be able to recognize ourselves and be like, oh, wait, like, I'll be real again. I was doing this message and I'm like, man, God, this is for me, because I got caught on the complaining train. I've been doing a lot of complaining here recently, and I'm like, man, I need to hear this. I need to recognize that character defect started to flare up. I got to be willing to go to God and do something about it. But today, I wanted to talk to you about something that's real bad that's been going around. I've heard that at first, you can barely notice it, right? Then it starts getting worse and worse, and eventually it starts to overtake your system. It starts to overtake different aspects of your mind and body. And I heard that it can stop you dead in your tracks. And this thing also spreads like the plague. If you hang around with people that have it, it'll spread to you with the quickness. And it'll start overtaking your body and mind as well. It's called the disease of complaining. Anybody ever hear of it? I know I have. Guys, let this go unchecked, and I promise you all your progress will be halted. And eventually, your life will soon take a turn for the worst if it keeps going. Guys, the Bible addresses complaining, murmuring, different areas over 20 times in the Bible, but none is more popular than the famous story of the Israelites that were freed from Egypt. If you know the story, if you don't, I'll try to give you the overview. So God freed the Israelites, right? They were stuck in this slavery to Egypt for hundreds of years, oppressed, treated horribly, and they cried out to God. God heard them, and he said, I got y'all. And he started working a series of miracles in their life. God did all sorts of miracles to get them out of there. Right, he gets them out of slavery. Then he does some parts the Red Sea so that they can fully escape. And he leads them by day and night, provides all that they could possibly need. And God did all this stuff with the goal was to lead them to the almighty promised land. You know how the story ended? They never made it into the promised land. Or at least that generation of folks did not make it into the promised land. Why? Yes, it had to do with disobedience. Yes, it had to do with letting things become more important than God. But there was one primary reason why they never got there. From day one, all they did was complain. Right? They complained about the food. We don't have enough to eat. This food isn't that great. We're not being taken care of. Man, the food was better when we were locked up, when we were living in slavery. This is horrible. Moses, like, why'd you drag us out here for? They complained about the water or lack of it. We don't have any fresh water, Moses. What did God bring us out here so we can just die of thirst out in the middle of this desert? They complained about the leadership. Moses, you're not doing a good enough job. Like, if we had someone else in charge, we would have been there by now. Everything would be so much better than it is right now, right? They complained that God wasn't doing enough. They complained that it was taking too long. I'm sure they complained about all different types of stuff that Moses was probably too exasperated to even write down at that point. He was probably so frustrated with the whole thing. I'm sure that they complained about the traffic. All these animals getting in our way every time we try to get to the promised land. All these people, like, we can't get there. I would assume they probably complained that the Wi-Fi wasn't working correctly. Oh, just hold that staff up. We're not getting a good signal out here. Right? Guys, I'm sure that they complained about whatever job that they got assigned to do on that particular day. This job's horrible. Why did Moses give that to me? Their job's way better. They look like they're having a bunch more fun. This stinks, that stinks. The boss is horrible, right? Then I'm sure it transitioned at some point to, man, you believe those people sleeping in the tent next to us? They stink. They're this, they're that. And then a guy gets saying, don't even get me started about my wife and my kids. But you understand what I'm saying? Like, here's the problem, y'all, when this stuff goes unchecked. Just like a disease starts to spread and affect all different areas of the body, when complaining is allowed to fester and grow, it will seep into every single aspect of our life. This is real. We can quickly find ourselves complaining about literally everything and everybody. Anyone know anything about the disease of diabetes? I live with a diabetic. And it's she protects against going high. Like, she likes to stay on the low side of things. If anyone knows what I'm saying, that deals with diabetes, no? If anyone watching or anyone in this room knows what it's like to have a person that stays low on the diabetic scale, that's a whole separate meeting. But the average person, right? The average person, they stay on the high side of things. So when you're reading about the consequences and the stuff that goes wrong with their body and with diabetes, that's because people allow their blood sugar to be way too high for way too long a period of time, right? And so the problem is that if that continues to happen day after day, it will start to spread to all different areas of the body. The effects, the damage will start to spread to all different areas of the body. Just a few of the complications that could happen include heart attacks, kidney failure, stroke, nerve damage, right? And sometimes it can be so severe that people may have to get a leg amputated off. Guys, the damage and the effects spread. And so I'm trying to tell you tonight that the disease of complaining is no different. Right? Think about it. Like, I promise you, if we do not do something about this, we will find ourselves complaining about absolutely everything. I've lived it. We get in that negative mindset, it gets worse and worse, and before you know it, everywhere we go, we will find something wrong with it. Every meeting, every church service, we'll find that one thing that they didn't do right, or that upset us or offended us, or that they did wrong. Every interaction with any human being, we will find something that irks us to complain about from that particular person. Every job, every place we live, everything we do, we will find something to complain about. Y'all, this is a disease. We can't allow this to spread into all these different aspects of our life, y'all. We got to see what happened to them so we can know what will happen to us at some point if we just let this continue to go unchecked. So we already established for the Israelites, right? Just kind of lead us into the place we're going to be talking about in scripture here, right? We established that the complaining had basically overtaken most everybody there. They were already too far gone. All they did was complain. And I need you to get this, where we're at in the story. God, even after all that, even after how they spited him and just didn't acknowledge his blessings and just looked past it and found something to constantly complain about, he still, right, brought them very close to the promised land, because he is such a good God that gives us grace. And he gives us chance after chance after chance. Thank God for that. All right? So he brings everyone almost to the promised land. And where we're at in the story is, so God asked Moses, right, to get together 12 spies to go survey this promised land and to see what lies ahead of them. You with me? 12 people are being sent into basically this territory of the promised land, because they had to see what was going on over there so they can plan how they were going to enter into it. So all 12, they go and see and experience the exact same thing, and now they have to come back and they have to make a report to the rest of the people about what they saw and what they experienced. They do agree on two things, all 12 of them. One, that the land is flowing with milk and honey and is one of the most beautiful, amazing places that they've ever seen. But also, there are some crazy looking, huge guys, like just this massive people that already occupy the land. And they have huge cities and forts already built, and that's what they would have to go through in order to get in there. Right? And so we're going to come from Numbers chapter 13, verses 30, 32, and 33 there. So Caleb, he silenced the people before Moses. It was Caleb and Joshua were together on this viewpoint, and they said, we should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it. The other 10, right, the men who had gone up with them said, we can't attack those people. They're stronger than we are. And they spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land they had explored. They said, the land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there were of great size, and we seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. You understand what we just read there? So 2 out of the 10, right? They just experienced and saw the same stuff, but 2 out of the 10, Caleb and Joshua came and said, hey, y'all, like, we got this. God's on our side, right? Like, he's gonna lead us into this thing. Let's go up and take possession of this land. Let's do this. And the other 10 said, oh, no. We're never gonna be able to make it in there. These people are gonna slaughter us. They're huge. We're nothing. Like, there's no possible way that we're going to be able to go in there. You know what else happens eventually if you let your diabetes go unchecked? It starts to affect your vision. It starts to affect the way that you see. Everything you view starts to become affected and changed. And at some point, it can eventually lead to complete blindness. I want you to see something here. Number 3 on the back. The disease of complaining is no different than diabetes, y'all. Not only can it affect our entire being, but it can also start to affect the way that we see things. Eventually, we will have a pessimistic point of view about absolutely everything. But I want to make sure you get that right. You understand that, right? Diabetes, it starts spreading so much that it starts to affect your vision. It starts to affect the way that you see things. The disease of complaining is no different. You let that go unchecked, it's going to spread. It's going to start to affect the way that you see things. It's going to start to allow us to have a pessimistic point of view about absolutely everything, y'all. This is important. Pessimistic, well, what's that mean? I know it means negative or whatever. What's the definition? It's right there. A tendency to see the worst aspect of things or believe that the worst will happen. How many can relate to that? Right? We see it, man. There's no way it's going to occur. Just complain about everything. I'm already so negative. It affects my vision. I can't see us moving forward. I can't see me doing any better in life than this. I can't see anything but these obstacles in front of us. Right? It's a lack of confidence in the future. Guys, this is deep. We have to understand we don't want to start to allow that to affect everything that we see. The people that let complaining overtake their entire being, they all saw one thing together, how it wasn't going to happen. How there's no way that they could pull it off. And moving forward into everything God had for them was not for them, right? But Caleb and Joshua, they saw something else entirely. They had cut off that disease of complaining a long time ago. They didn't let that affect their whole being. And they're like, no. I don't know what y'all are seeing, but we're seeing something else. We're seeing something better. We're seeing what God can do in our life. Let's go take this. Let's do this, right? They both saw the exact same thing, but yet to them, it was something completely different. Guys, the bottom line of that is life all depends on how you look at it. Our life depends on how you look at it. I want to make sure we understand our lives are mostly affected by the way that we think things are, not the way they actually are. Right? The way that the things that affect us most, right, is the way that we think that life is, not the way that it actually is. What do I mean by that? I could bring you to show someone that's whatever life situation that they're in, maybe it doesn't seem like a lot to them in the world standards. So I could bring you to someone that could be so miserable and depressed, always going around thinking that they've never accomplished anything, that they aren't far enough along, right? And they could waste month after month on just being upset that they don't have more, they haven't gone further, or whatever that looks like. And then I could put another person in that exact same scenario, and I bet you they would be to the moon happy about it. Like, like I get to live here. like this is amazing, man. Like I get to sleep in the bed next to them every night. Wow. Like I get to take care of these kids. Man, I get to eat all this food. I get to work here and get a paycheck at the end of every week. I get to drive this. Man, this is awesome. Right? Yeah, the car might be $4,000 cash. Yeah, the job's only paying $14 an hour, but they crazy happy about it. Like, they're loving it. Right? Guys, life is not defined on how things actually are. It's how we think they are. You got to start seeing yourself the way that God sees you.
Freed us from the slavery of addiction, bless us in so many ways.
Like it talks about in the Bible, that unity that's going to bring people to Christ.
When you pray those prayers from a place of desperation.
No matter what is going on in my life, God has this covered.